ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Automotive. 2007 Chrysler Pacifica. Long story short, I had the car in here yesterday I had the car in here. The customer really declined the full diagnostic on it. I did play with it a little bit. What happened is when it got hot, or when it warmed up, when the engine warmed up, we lost injector control. Possibility. Now this is all hearsay till proven otherwise. The number 5 cylinder is showing misfire, and the number 5 cylinder on this vehicle is the front on the back bank. That is our number 5. I've got the injector. We're going to do plugs on this thing. We'll have to yank the intake off of it to do it. So long story short, the customer kind of declined the full diagnostic on it. Like I said, we can't force nobody to do a diagnostic, and I'm not doing it for free either. It does take a little bit of time to take a scope put on it and see what's going on with it. So in a nutshell, we're just going to replace the injector on the number 5, and we'll go ahead and put a set of plugs in it while we're at it. I got some iridium plugs for it. Now I'm going to tell you already, this is not going to be, or likely not going to be, a verified fix, just because, let me flip that screen so I can see, just because the customer declines any kind of diagnostic on it. So that being said, you know, as far as the shops, I get asked this frequently, you know, as far as out here in the shop, we have to do what the customer wants us to do. I cannot just take work. I can't do this on my own. You know, I cannot go and do things and then tell the customer, hey, I did this and this, you're going to owe me that much. That does not work. I don't do that. You know, I don't operate like that. I wouldn't want anybody to do me like that. So, get some light up in here. We're going to undo some plugs here. Being this is a Chrysler vehicle, this is not a mass airflow. This is a speed density engine. So there's no mass airflow on this thing. Air temperature, of course, we're going to have that. Got the throttle actuator to unplug. We've got the map sensor to unplug. We have there is a intake runner motor in here that has to be unplugged. There's a set of flappers on the inside, on the intake. In a nutshell, that's what that is. So we have to unplug it. Man, I'm having an issue with the plug. What in the craziness? This craziness. There we go. Old plastic, gotta be careful. Don't want to get too brutal on it. Same with the hoses. Don't want to get too brutal on that. Most of that stuff should be fairly self-explanatory. Got some of these lines here to undo. Grab us an 8 mil, I think. See if that's correct. 8 mil. I'm gonna undo both sides. Get this out of the way. Lay that up here. Friggin' ice on top right there. So there's a bit on the cold side out there. Anyway, got some hoses back here. I'm gonna have to undo them. Of course, that's probably not been apart, so they're not going to be super easy to get off. A lot of times, of course, be ready when you're doing something like that. There's a possibility, there's always a good possibility you're going to break a hose or something like that, and you know, you might have to replace that. EGR tube over here, we'll have to get that undone. That should be an 8 millimeter. May not be, that may be smaller. It is 8. So get into the 8 millimeter stuff on that one. Very careful with that. These screws right there thread right into the plastic, so you don't definitely don't want to yank on that or tighten them up too tight. You will break it. No ifs, ands, buts about that. I got this oil. Let me pause the camera for just a second. I got to put some stuff up that's on my cart here. There's just a ton of stuff. Right, had to put some stuff up. We got 10 millimeters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. I think, if I remember that correctly, that is all there is on these. May be wrong. I do believe that is all there is. This gasket is generally reusable, but since this thing is on, I don't know that we can reuse it. I'm gonna have to get that gasket. Okay, so yeah, I've got I got the clips up front. I didn't think about that, so bear with me. Yeah, that is correct. I do have clips up here in the front, 10 mil. I think I'm gonna have to undo this wire over here as well and slip out this little holder to get to that. Yeah, that is correct. I forgot about that. It's been a minute since I've seen one of these things. Let's see what size that is. I can't remember. 12, perhaps. Whoa! What I did? I grabbed the wrong one. I might have missed again. Yeah, I did miss again. It's a 13. Dummy. Careful not to drop it. I have to kind of make a note to myself not to do that. So I have to do the wire up here. So get to the actual bracket right here. High side AC. We'll have to get that slipped off of there. It's corroded pretty good. On this one here, hopefully we can get it off. That was pretty painless. That's good. Try not to do that, but I just did. Yeah, ratchet not going to work on that one. Then I'll have to back up and regroup on that one. Like I said, if you got your AC, no, it's power steering line, not the AC high line, dummy. Power steering line, sorry. So we'll have to get us a good old-fashioned wrench over here, get it on this, and see if we can get that apart. Ting. Oh, just a second. I think a customer calling. Okay, take the bolt out off this bracket right here, and we have. Let's see what else we got here. Da, 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 da. Okay, one more plug. That plug down here for the other intake runner control. That one is easier to get once you lift it up on it. That's why I haven't done that one yet. This is much easier to do it right now. Just don't forget to plug these back in. Vehicle won't run for crap when you don't have them plugged in. That's what you're pulling off of it. Like I said, generally this gasket here is reusable. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. Friggin'. So right now, what we're looking at here, of course, is the there's a wiring harness. Here's our number 5 injector, what's right there. So we have all this. These here, they normally dry rot. We'll kind of be careful with that. I better get, let me grab a vacuum cleaner. I'll pause the camera back up and grab a vacuum cleaner. We need to get some of that off because I just dropped one piece in the intake here. It didn't fall all the way down, it's right there at the top. But let me get that sucked out of there. Let me hit this wire loom a little bit because it will break apart. That's normal on these things. They all do it. Well, as you can see, this is really pretty short and painless to do this. Not a big deal at all. Switch over to 10 millimeter. Let's get the coils out of this little baby. In my experience, these plugs here, they like to break. Gotta bear that in mind. And by the way, I did have the scope on this wire that feeds all of this crap. So I do know we did have spark. So like I said, kind of be careful. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pause the camera up. Kind of be careful when you take these plugs off, because they do have a tendency to break. In my experience, it is. So anyway, turn the light back on. I guess I forgot to do that. Actually, what we can do, also here, let me zoom in a little bit. When you go in the back of this and you lift up, a lot of times that is a lot easier than trying to use the tab in the front. That's what normally breaks in the first place. You try to push it and it doesn't, you can't really get it pushed enough to come out, but you go in the back and you pry up a little bit. All you're doing is on the back side, you lift it up on the tab and release it from this little raised part of it, the coil. So anyway, inspect the coils just to make sure. We'll be throwing a little bit more of the dielectric grease on that. These don't show no signs of carbon traces, the arcing part that sometimes occurs on these coils. These don't show that. It's all dry as well, at least on the front bank that I can see. I'm gonna get the plugs out of there. I'm not gonna film that part. Just to show you that, these plugs here, they have significant wear. They got a much larger gap than what actually is recommended from the factory. So that being said, that also requires more power from the coil to fire that plug. And I don't know what they got going on over here, but we certainly got a almost felt like messed up threads. We got some oil in the hole here. I thought it was dry, but I guess it has a little bit of oil in it. Let the customer know that that is happening. I'm not going to do anything with that right this moment. Actually, not that bad. I mean, see a lot worse. That one don't got anything in it. So, pause the camera back up, get the rest of these plugs out. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stress this enough. The customer declined all types of diagnostics on this vehicle. So we are going solely based on the number 5 injector circuit code. It had one of them, and obviously it had a number 5 cylinder misfire. So that's what we're going off. Just so nobody is screaming, well, you could have checked it. Well, I'm sorry, guys, I can't, guys and gals, I guess, I cannot check it if the customer doesn't let me. You know, I have to do what they tell me to do. It's the unfortunate truth of it. And that's all there's to it. That is what we are doing. Like I said, the vehicle does run smooth when it's cold. It just, when it starts heating up, that's when it starts running rough and misfiring. So I'm gonna go ahead, put the plugs back in again. Not gonna film that part of it. I mean, it's putting spark plugs in a hole. And yes, I am throwing auto lights in this thing. The auto light plugs, they seem to actually work pretty good in these Chrysler, so that's why I'm using them. Plus, that's the only thing I could get in an XP, that is. These are iridium plugs, and if you look at, I don't know if the camera will pick it up or not, but anyway, if you happen to see the gap, this is significantly smaller than what we had on the plugs I took out. So anyway, moving on. Well, let's go ahead, toss a rag over the top of this. Of course, what we're interested in here, like I said, is the number 5. Carefully pull that back off. Take that vacuum and pull a little bit of that out of here. Penetrating oil. Next thing, we're going to spray a little bit of penetrating oil on that Dewey. What I'm going to try to do on this one here, try to do the least amount of disturbing. Actually, I should have sprayed all of them. We'll go ahead and give all of them a spritz. I'm not going to actually undo all of them. We're going to undo these bolts that hold it, that bolt it down, and we're going to try to lift it up and see if we can snake that injector in there. We have to learn to just ignore that part, I guess. Oh, here we go. There's the old injector. Cannot stress this enough. I didn't diagnose it. All I had was a code-based diagnostic, which is probably never ever a good idea, but anyway, that's where we're at. So. Fish the injector back in there, if we can. Actually, I'm going to give that a little toot of air. That's what I want to do. Is I'm going to put some heavy grease on that. That does tend to make it slip in much easier. Got this penetrating grease, which is generally pretty good stuff. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but that's how that sits in there. So this is where we're going with this. I don't know how good the camera can pick that up, but anyway, you'll just worst case scenario, look at the other injectors, and that will paint you a pretty good picture. What you got to do actually with the grease on there, that Dewey slipped right in there. No gloves to do the rest of it. Gloves don't seem to work too good when you're doing that. I already tell you that. More than likely, you got to do this a couple of times because it never goes in the first time, I don't think. But just don't give up on that. You know, it's going to take a little bit finagling to do them like this, but you will get it in there. I promise you will get it in there. That slipped all right back out. Like I said, just don't get mad at it. It's going to take a couple of tries. Us doing it like this here is kind of hard to do. It's kind of hard to see what you're doing for one. So that's kind of where you're going to be with that. Yeah, that slipped in that time. So luck on the third try. Plug our wire back in. These are extremely tight. The wiring and all that good stuff right here. And it's kind of hard to get to, so you have to work with it the best you can. So we slip the injectors right back in, and we're going to go ahead, put the bolts back in, and tighten them up. Pause the camera up, do that. Get your intake set back on. You have to sneak it in the EGR tube. You kind of have to slip it in there like that. So we do want to remember that plug right here is extremely difficult to get on. So go ahead and plug your intake runner control, plug that back in. That Dewey is kind of difficult, a booger to get on, in my opinion, so we'll go ahead and lift it up. There's already not a lot of wire, so see, it may not be difficult, but it's aggravating nonetheless. It's aggravating like this, let alone once you actually got it bolted down. Try to move these wires around. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera back up, video a little bit shorter. So okay, let's go ahead and tighten the bolts up from the center out. Click, click. Like I said, I don't think that the gasket needs to be replaced. Well, I'll go ahead and take a chance on that, just simply because the customer don't want to spend no more money than what they got to. So we're gonna just hope that this works out real good. Of course, I got to run the vehicle. I still got to prove that this is actually going to be a fix somehow or another. Put our EGR plate back in on these bolts because of the way they are. They built them. You want to do that by hand. You want to make sure that you get into the old thread pattern, because if you don't, you'll end up hurting that plastic. I guarantee it. So kind of wiggle them a little bit and try to get into the old threads on that one. Remember that that is a metal bolt going into a piece of plastic. It would start just about anywhere. So kind of keep that in mind. I hope that's some useful information for you. I don't know. We want to be careful with that. And when I say careful, I mean careful. We don't want to hurt that in any kind of way. Tight is tight. Get a hoses hook back up. Okay, we've got one more plug missing, and we'll put that tube back on, the snorkel back on, and get all that. Here we go, there's that one. Let's get our... There is notches in these boots that line up, so be aware of that. Get that lined up real nice. And tighten our clamps back up. So that looks real good right there. 8mm once again. Careful on those, don't over tighten them, you'll strip that out too. Alright, good and tight. Got this plug back in. Plug back in these plugs, okay. EGR, hoses, blah blah blah. Alright, get back to the front over here. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pause the camera up. The next two bolts are the bolts over here on the side, and we're gonna hook this back up. So we'll get that done. There is a stud, a threaded stud, and a nut that goes on this bracket over here, and the other side just slips on once you get the bolt in. One of the bolts has got dropped, so I got to fish it out and do that, and I'll turn the camera back on. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I got the hose hooked up and all that good stuff, but I made a massive amount of smoke. Of course, I had some oil running in the hole there, though that didn't help us none. But anyway, the vehicle started, it's running. Now, right now, it's not that bad. What kind of reveals it on this thing is when we put it into any gear, it starts shaking violently. If the or that's what it did do, I should say. So let me go ahead and step in there and put it in gear. Okay, we got it in reverse. It's nice and smooth. No shuddering and all that good stuff. Drive. Reverse. See if we move the power. I am going to have to open the door a little bit. I'll pause that camera off just a second so we don't die in here. I'm going to have to turn the fan on. Okay, of course, being so cold in here now, I've had this vehicle running for some time. It is what it is. I'll let you listen to that for just a second. I want to do a code scan real quick. Even that is rather irrelevant, just because, like I said, the customer declined any kind of diagnostic, so we're just strictly going off the codes that was in there before. So he's got a transmission code in there as well. So I mean, it is what it is. The codes are in there is a P0205 and obviously a P0305, which is the misfire in that cylinder. Right now we can tell it's not misfiring, it's actually running pretty smooth, but in any event, that's where I'm at. So try to clear codes. A lot of times Chrysler, they don't clear codes when the engine is running. And yes, it did not. The check engine light is still on. Like I said, these Chrysler, a lot of times they don't like to do that when the engine is running. Of course, the 1-2 shift, that is a permanent code. They've done something when they put a transmission in not too long ago. I'm going to go ahead and turn that key off just for a second. There again, I cannot stress this enough. Don't shoot the messenger. I can't guarantee this is what fixed it. This is based off the codes and codes alone, and plus he stopped by at the parts store and that's what they told him. So anyway, that's where we're at. Now, of course, there is always the possibility on the computer not controlling it, but you know, kind of unlikely because it is running okay right now. So let it go through there and clear the codes right quick. So speed control switch 1-2 correlation, that code, like I said, that's part of the transmission that they just put in here. That code is fine, don't concern me at all. We already talked about what that is. The other code has been cleared in it. We'll go straight into the engine. Fuel trim was actually not that bad when I checked it. The last time when it was running correctly. No kind of crank time. Engine is smooth. So did a little code scan on the engine once again. Well, I guess I could point the camera over there, you dummy. Well, shoot. Well, crapola. Well, I guess I should have done that in the first place rather than you taking my word for it. Just did a code scan over here. Let's do it again. Everybody can see codes, scan the codes, speed control switch. This is not my problem. And we can clear this code. We'll try to clear it. If we're not clear, prove that to you. Not with the engine running. And besides that, it will come back right away anyway. There we go. It's not going to happen because I like it. Oh, this is where we're at. So far, the code has not returned for the injector, but I've also mention that. Let me get you back out. Did mention that this only happened after a heat soak. Wrong way there, fella. So, like I said, the easy way to tell for me was that when it finally heat soaked enough, and actually I was on the way to pull it back out the other night when he told me he didn't really want to diagnose it. So that's when it actually started. I put it in reverse and it started shaking real violently, so I knew we had a misfire there. But anyway, pause the camera back up. Apologize, that is a pretty dirty signal right there. We do have actually the humps for the injectors and the coils right there on the screen. I don't have a trigger set or anything like that, so this is just a real crude, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but we got the spark lines, we got the injectors. The other day I did the same thing with the AM clamp, and what I did there is just throw it around the wire right there, and we had the actual injector missing once it started misfiring. So now they're all there. There's at least eight pattern on the screen, so at least we got some kind of action right now. I know that's not really dissecting the signal itself, but like I said, I don't get paid for this. I'm not too worried about it. I was just really curious if everything is showing on the screen, and it does. That's real quick and dirty. So guys, I'm gonna shut it off right here. If I get news that it messed up again, I'm sure we will be doing this again. But anyway, hey, I appreciate everybody watching. You know, like, subscribe, help me out a little bit. So hey, we'll see you on the next one. It's cold outside. Little update. I figured, well, I'll leave it sitting in here. I had that thing heat soaking for some time, and I figured, I'm gonna go for a little spin, take it for a little toot, couple of loops around the block, and well, check engine light is still off. I mean, that's more than what it was before, so may have fixed it. I mean, probably did by the looks of it. So lucky for him, that probably took care of his problem. You know, like I said, I normally don't like to not diagnose something, but we cannot. I hate to keep repeating myself over and over again, but you know, I've had comments on the channel before about, oh, not checking something, blah blah blah. That's all fine, but if the customer declines, the customer declines. It's that simple. You know, we got to do at the end of the day, we got to do what the customer wants to do. And lucky shot for him. Apparently I fixed it. So here we go. We'll see you on the next one.